English 1, Reporting Period Assessment 1. Read the selection and choose the best answer to each question. The jewelry box. On the first day of her freshman year, Lauren searched frantically for the woodshop. She was very late, and everyone was already seated when she finally arrived. Trying to find a seat while everyone watched was exactly the sort of attention Lauren wanted to avoid. The room was full of students she recognized from her bus, and she grew more uncomfortable. Most of them were the boys who sat at the back of the bus, boys who looked 30 years old because they already had facial hair. These were the type who blatantly broke rules, which always made her uneasy. She noticed Jerry Pickup, the bus ringleader, in the back, and she grew even more nervous. He had a reputation for moving around schools a lot and was known for his meanness. He was always harassing people on the bus, and thus far she'd avoided being a target. Everyone, including Jerry, snickered quietly as they watched her take a seat in the back. After she'd been sitting for a few minutes listening to the teacher drone on, Jerry yelled, "Look, her feet don't even touch the ground." After he said it, the whole class erupted in laughter because he was right, and without even noticing, she'd been letting her feet swing back and forth like a toddler in a high chair. While Lauren thought that anyone with the name Jerry Pickup who looked 30 and had a scar under his right eye shouldn't make fun of anyone, she still felt humiliated enough to turn red and have to blink back embarrassed tears. However, Lauren had always been a good student, so she said nothing, cursed her schedule silently, and started taking notes. She'd made straight A's for her whole life. However, she was fairly certain that shop class would not be one of her strong suits. So she paid close attention and tried to forget the taunting that loomed behind her every day. During the second week of class, the teacher assigned their first project. It was to make a jewelry box. Lauren remembered the teacher giving a lecture on the virtues and drawbacks of certain woods. Pine was the easiest and cheapest, but oak was the best. She chose pine because it seemed sensible to start off easy since she'd never been that good at things that involved crafts. In fact, in kindergarten, Lauren's teacher told her parents she was falling behind because she couldn't use scissors. The comment haunted Lauren for years. She hated feeling stupid. Even worse, she hated bad grades. The teacher walked through the steps of making the box, and Lauren took diligent notes and was careful to pay close attention. However, when it came to making the actual box with saws and other equipment, she was lost. The saws eluded her, never doing what she wanted. Her pieces were always askew and never lined up correctly. Even more frustrating was that after the first day's humiliation, Lauren wanted to fly under the radar and just fit in. But to do that, she needed to make a passable box, which was proving difficult. So every day in the woodshop, Jerry Pickup and his cronies snickered and made jokes, mostly about her smallness. But now they peppered in remarks about her lack of skills too. "Look at little Lauren's lopsided box," Jerry sneered to his friends. Concentrating on her work, Lauren tried to ignore him, but when she looked around the room, she could see that despite the fact that the boys seemed to lack common sense and social skills, they were crafting perfect boxes. Jerry's taunting went on for a week. It got to the point where Lauren had a physical reaction every time shop class neared. Her stomach would tense up 10 minutes before her geometry class ended, like it was being scrambled in a hand mixer. By the time she walked into the shop classroom, her heart would be pounding, and the smell of pine and sawdust would make her almost vomit. She had to breathe deeply and concentrate to keep from throwing up. Then, while fighting back her queasiness, she would brace herself for Jerry's comments each and every day, because he always had a new and more creative insult waiting for her. "Hey, Lauren, do you need a booster seat for that saw?" "Oh, who am I kidding? I don't even think a booster seat would help her work the saw." "Mr. Swanson, I think Lauren might need some smaller goggles." You know, a pair that doesn't cover her whole face. Do we have any from a Barbie doll, maybe? Here, Lauren, let me lift you up to that sander. On the day that Jerry came over and lifted her up, holding her in the air for a few minutes until he was sure everyone in the class had noticed. He didn't put her until Mr. Swanson threatened him with disciplinary action. When Jerry finally let her down, Lauren ran from the classroom straight to the guidance counselor for a schedule change. I need a schedule change, she blurted out. Okay, her guidance counselor, Mrs. Sampson, began, but it's a little late, Lauren. I got stuck in woodshop and I'm being bullied. I want out. Well, most activities are full. That's how you ended up in that class. Why don't you tell me what's going on? Lauren explained the situation with Jerry, and the counselor was not surprised. She seemed to know all about Jerry pickup, but she couldn't change Lauren's schedule. Instead, Mrs. Sampson suggested Lauren not show Jerry any fear and to communicate the limits he was pushing with her. It's important that you stand your ground, she said. Sometimes bullies have been bullied themselves, and they don't know what it means to be told no because they've never learned to say no. The next day in class, Lauren pretended to be stronger than she really felt. When Jerry piped up for his first insult, Lauren said, "That will be enough, Jerry." She stared at him and waited until he broke the glance first. Then she returned to her work. She tried to look busy drawing lines and measuring them in her notebook. However, on the inside, her blood boiled and her mind raced as she feared the retaliation he was planning. But it never came. Before she knew it, class was over. On the bus ride to school the next day, Lauren tried to sneak into a seat by the window where no one was sitting. When Jerry boarded the bus a few moments later, he saw her and sat right next to her. Lauren tensed up. She wasn't ready for any more torment. Jerry's face looked softened somehow. He leaned close to her so nobody could hear and said, "I finished your box for you. Well, I threw yours out and made you another one. Yours would have gotten a C at best, and I know you're not the sort of girl who likes to get C's. So I made you one. It's an A. I've taken this class at 3 different schools. It's always the same first project." Then he got up and went to the back of the bus. Lauren exhaled with real relief for the first time in weeks. She couldn't believe it. She looked back, mystified by his actions, and he shot her a smile before turning back to his friends. She sat back, self-assured. Somehow she knew that she had passed some sort of test and that the days of taunting were over.